In the world of extreme stunts, where crowds hold their breath and hearts race, 5 stories remind us just how dangerous chasing the impossible can be. From a man who built his own rocket to prove the Earth was flat to brave performers walking on airplane wings, these aren't just crashes, they're moments that changed lives forever. From the fountains of Caesar's Palace to Snake River Canyon and high in the sky above watching crowds, each story shows us what happens when bold dreams meet harsh reality. This is the true tragedy of 5 of the deadliest stunts. In the summer of 2011, the Michigan Airshow promised something spectacular. Veteran stuntman Todd would attempt one of the most dangerous aerial stunts possible, transferring from a plane to a helicopter in mid-flight. For Green, this was familiar territory. He had spent years perfecting his craft as an aerial stuntman, known for making the impossible look easy. The stunt seemed simple on paper. Green would start on a Stearman biplane, climb out onto its wing while flying at 200 feet, and reach up to grab the skid of a helicopter flying above. He had practiced this move many times before. The weather was perfect that day, with clear skies and light winds, ideal conditions for such a precise maneuver. As thousands watched from below, Green began his performance with the confidence of a seasoned professional. He moved smoothly across the biplane's wing, making each careful step look like a dance in the sky. The helicopter positioned itself perfectly above, hovering steady as Green reached up to make the transfer. Then, in a split second, everything went wrong. Green's grip slipped. There was no safety net, no backup plan, no second chance. The crowd watched in horror as he fell, their cheers turning to screams. In front of hundreds of spectators, including children and families, Green's final performance came to a tragic end. This wasn't just the loss of a skilled performer, it was a stark reminder that even the most experienced professionals can face fatal consequences in the pursuit of thrilling entertainment. New Year's Eve, 1967. Las Vegas was buzzing with excitement as Evel Knievel prepared for what would become one of the most famous motorcycle jumps in history. The goal was simple but terrifying. Jump his motorcycle 141 feet over the fountains of Caesar's Palace. At the time, no one had ever attempted anything like it. Knievel wasn't just any stunt rider. He was a showman who understood that people came to see not just the jump, but the man behind it. In his red, white, and blue jumpsuit, he looked more like a superhero than a motorcycle rider. But even heroes aren't bulletproof. As his Triumph motorcycle roared to life that evening, something wasn't right. The speed wasn't perfect. The takeoff wasn't clean. Time seemed to slow down as Knievel sailed through the air, and after a brief moment, everyone thought he might make it. Then gravity took over. The crash was brutal. His body hit the ground like a rag doll, tumbling over and over across the hard pavement. The impact crushed his pelvis, broke his hips, and fractured so many bones that doctors lost count. Knievel spent 29 days in a coma where many thought he would never wake up. But this is where the story takes an unexpected turn. Instead of ending his career, this devastating crash made Evel Knievel famous. The footage of his jump played on TV across America, and suddenly everyone knew his name. The man who should have died became a legend, going on to break 433 bones throughout his career, a world record he never meant to set. This near-fatal jump at Caesar's Palace wasn't just a stunt gone wrong. It was the birth of a new era in extreme sports, written in blood, broken bones, and an unshakable will to survive. 7 years after his legendary crash at Caesar's Palace, Evel Knievel set his sights on something even more ambitious. This time, he wasn't just jumping fountains. He wanted to cross an entire canyon. Snake River Canyon in Idaho stood before him, a massive gap nearly half a mile wide and 500 feet deep. Realizing a motorcycle wouldn't be enough, Knievel worked with engineers to create something completely new, the Sky Cycle X2. It wasn't really a motorcycle at all, but a rocket-powered vehicle that looked like something from a sci-fi movie. The plan was to launch it at 350 miles per hour across the canyon. On September 8, 1974, thousands of fans gathered to watch what many called a suicide mission. The atmosphere was electric. People had paid good money to either see history being made or witness a tragedy. Television crews broadcast the event live across the country as millions held their breath. The launch started well. The Sky Cycle roared to life with a massive burst of steam and rocket fuel. But just seconds after takeoff, disaster struck. The parachute deployed too early, catching the wind like a sail. Instead of soaring across the canyon, the skycycle floated backward, dragged by its own safety device. Knievel and his machine drifted down toward the raging Snake River below. By some miracle, he landed on the rocky canyon edge instead of in the water. Though the skycycle was destroyed, Knievel walked away with only minor injuries, but his pride took a massive hit. The stunt was labeled a failure, and many fans felt cheated. The man who had captured America's imagination with his death-defying motorcycle jumps had finally found a challenge too big to conquer. Jane Wicker wasn't just any wing walker. She was known as the Flying Diva, famous for performing moves that seemed to defy both gravity and fear. Her signature stunt involved sitting on the wing of her plane upside down with no safety harness as it rolled through the sky. To her, the airplane's wing was just another stage for her aerial ballet. At the 2013 Dayton Airshow in Ohio, thousands gathered to watch Jane perform with pilot Charlie Schwenker. The weather was perfect, and the crowd was eager to see her famous routine. Jane had done this performance countless times before, and her confidence showed as she climbed out onto the wing of the bright blue Boeing Stearman biplane. As the plane climbed higher, Jane moved into position for their most dramatic move, the inverted pass. The plan was for the plane to turn upside down with Jane perched on the wing, creating a breathtaking image against the summer sky. It was the kind of moment that made people believe in magic. But something went terribly wrong. As the plane began its roll, it suddenly lost altitude. Before anyone could react, the aircraft plunged toward the ground. In a matter of seconds, both Jane and Charlie were gone, leaving behind a stunned audience and a dark cloud over the airshow community. Jane had once said in an interview, "I feel safer on the wing of my plane than I do driving to the airport." Her words remind us that for these performers, the real danger often lies not in the stunts themselves, but in the tiny, unpredictable factors that can turn a well-practiced routine into tragedy. In 2020, Michael "Mad Mike" Hughes had a mission unlike any other daredevil before him. He wasn't trying to break a speed record or wow a crowd. He wanted to prove the Earth was flat. His plan? Build a homemade steam-powered rocket in his garage and launch himself high enough to see for himself. Mad Mike wasn't a trained rocket scientist or astronaut. He was a limo driver from California with a dream and determination. His friends called him a self-taught rocket scientist. Others called him crazy, but no one could deny his passion. Using basic materials and his own designs, he built a bright green rocket that looked more like something from a backyard science project than a space program. But that didn't stop him from believing it could carry him 5,000 feet into the sky. This wasn't his first attempt at reaching the heavens. In 2018, he had managed to launch himself 1,875 feet into the air in a previous version of his rocket. He walked away from that launch with just a sore back, but this time he wanted to go higher, much higher. He spent months modifying his rocket, working late into the night in his garage, determined to prove his theories right. On February 22, 2020, in the desert near Barstow, California, Mad Mike prepared for what would be his final launch. The Discovery Channel cameras were rolling, documenting every moment for a new series called Homemade Astronauts. The atmosphere was tense but excited. As steam hissed from his homemade rocket, supporters and skeptics alike watched with a mix of amazement and concern. The rocket blasted off with Mad Mike strapped inside, but almost immediately something went catastrophically wrong. The parachute deployment system, meant to safely bring him back to Earth, ripped away during the launch. Witnesses watched in horror as the parachute floated uselessly away from the still rising rocket. The rocket continued its journey upward, but without any way to slow its return. Within seconds, what started as a quest for truth ended in tragedy. Mad Mike Hughes didn't just die chasing a controversial belief, he died showing how far some people will go to prove what they believe in, even if it means building a rocket in their garage and risking everything for one moment of truth. In the end, his story serves as a powerful reminder that passion, when pushed to extremes without proper safety measures and expertise, can lead to the ultimate price. Each of these 5 deadly stunts reminds us that the line between bravery and tragedy is razor thin, where one small mistake, one mechanical failure, or one moment of bad luck can mean the difference between legend and loss. This was the true tragedy of 5 of the deadliest stunts.